Happy Sunday! Gemma Crow here from Crow's Mojo. Just giving you another quick video, a tutorial today. Tutorial slash challenge actually, because I did a vote on Crow's Mojo Facebook group the other day, and you all voted that you wanted a wire work demonstration, but a lot of you voted that you would like a challenge too. So I thought, well, we'll do a little coalition in the grand scheme of things. Hopefully this is a coalition you will like better than the one we've got going on at the moment. Can't get any worse, can it? So we will, I'm going to show you how to create a brooch pin with wire, so with 1mm wire, and then I'm going to ask you to finish it off however you want to finish it off, and then come and post your makes on Crow's Mojo. So we'll get going. I've got 1mm copper wire. This is a gold plated copper wire, but you can use any 1mm gauge. You'll need some cutters, so something to cut your wire with. You'll need some round nose pliers, or probably better if you have got some bail making pliers. I'm going to be using the 3 smaller mandrels on these pliers, so but mainly because they've got a consistent size. So whereas the round nose pliers you've got a slope, they're conical, with these you've got consistent size, you know, you get the loops the same size. Not vitally important, but probably quite useful. And you'll need some flat nose pliers too. Finally, you will need some sort of needle file or device to round off or point out your pin. Okay, so I'm going to change the camera settings a little bit so I can get you to see what I'm actually making on the board in front of me, and I'll be back in a mo. Okay, so I'm going to make this brooch slash kilt pin design here, and I'm going to show you one variation on it and then leave you to adapt it however you will, and show you where you can make adaptations on the way. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is make the housing for the pin. It's the best place to start, I think, for this design. So I'm going to take my round nose pliers, and I'm going to use the third, my mandrel bail making pliers, I'll get it right in a minute, and I'm going to use the third size on my 6-step bail makers, which is this one here. So I'm going to pop that onto the wire about 3 inches in, or 2.5 inches in, and I'm going to double the wire back on itself just by turning and making a U shape, like so. Okay, so this is just our U shape to start with. I'm then going to take again that same size bail here maker and just pop it onto the tip of that U shape, so right onto the tip, just with a little bit of it protruding, and just tip it up slightly, so just a very slight tip upwards. And then going down to the largest of my mandrels on the bail making pliers, and I'm going to come down about a centimetre, so that's just under ½ an inch from that bend, and I'm going to bend them both wires together all the way around, like so. Okay, so I've got this sort of shepherd's hook, like a doubled up shepherd's hook going on. So then I need to combine these 2 wires so it feels like it's back into one piece. So I'm going to grip across level with that bend that I've made, maybe a bit further down if you want to, and I'm going to take the shorter tail wire and I'm going to wrap it around the long length that I've got left. So I'm going to take that tail wire, I'm going to pull it towards myself, and using my thumb and forefinger sort of guide it around the long tail wire. So we want it nice and secure. So 2 wraps, 3 wraps is ample, 2 or 3 wraps is ample, so I'm going to just go one more time. Now it is important that you hold this nice and tight so that the wires don't sort of cross over, they stay parallel. You can see underneath they're staying parallel, these wires. And the best way to do that, especially if you struggle with grip, is to go into the deepest part of the jaws of your pliers, because then you need a less grip to hold them flat and secure. So holding them nice and flat still, I'm going to take this wire once more round, and I'm going to trim. I'm doing that simply so that I can trim that wire on the inside of our pin design, so that there's no risk of it protruding and getting caught on skin or clothes. Okay, so trim that off, And then once you've got that trimmed, you can then take your flat nose pliers and give it a little pinch to tuck it into the design. Okay, so if we just I'll just pop my thumbnail in there and spread that open slightly and then push it back together. So there is the tip of our kilt pin. Okay, so now this rest of this wire here is going to become what would be the front of your brooch or the bottom of your brooch then. So along here you could pop some loops so that you can use this to dangle things from. You can use this as like a decorative kilt pin. I'm going to show you how to do that just in case you want to, but please bear in mind you can just leave this straight so that you can just stitch it or sew it or weave it into a different design. But if you want to put the loops, this is how you do it. You pop your bail makers again. I use bail makers so I get consistent loops. As I described earlier with your round nose pliers, you have to mark on them really to get the same point every time. So anyway, pliers in, I'm going around this smallest mandrel here, so they are on the underside of the pin, and I'm going to, it's up to you, a combination of turning your wrist or turning your work and bring the wire, turning all constantly, bring the wire all the way around. Now forgive the awkwardness of my turning here, it's because I have got the camera between my hands and my camera is sort of here, right here, and my face is obviously behind that and my hands are in front of it, so it's I'm making this look a lot harder than it really is. Anyway, there's my first loop. It's in line. I've kept my wire running parallel and just popped a loop in. Okay, so if I was doing this, I'd do the minimum of 3 loops, probably more like 4 or 5. So let's pop another one in. So again, line your pliers up so that the small mandrel is where you're going to put the loop. So just here, and then take your wire around. So I'm going all the way around. I'm putting quite a bit of tension when I pull this wire all the way around. Okay, I'm struggling now to move my pliers and my hands at the same time with everything in the way, but here we go, and you see I'm giving that a good pull to keep it out nice and straight. Put my pliers out. There you go, so there's another loop next door to it. Obviously I've put a bit more tension on that one so it's a bit smaller, so you can come in and make the one next door a bit smaller too. Don't worry too much if they look not quite lined up at this stage, because you can always come in after and line them up. Okay, so I'm going to put a third, so pliers into position again, pop a third loop in, there's my third, let's go for 4, and then I'm gonna give up on doing this bit. So here's my 4th. Okay, so there's 4 loops in position. Okay, and there they are, all in a row. Okay, so you can see they're a bit higgledy-piggledy, so I'm going to just take my flat nose pliers now and come in and tidy these up a bit. So I'm going to come into one of the loops, so let's go into this one. I'm going to just bite down. And you see how that lifted when I bit down, so we know it's not even. So then I push down on that one, on that side, and come in and just manipulate it slightly. It might take a few little turns to do this, but it's worth taking the time and getting those all lined up nice and straight. Okay, so once you're happy, you can go across all of them. Just bite across now with your pliers, just pinch across just to keep them in place, and that's set them where you want them. Okay, I'm now going to make the spring mechanism for my pin. So I'm going to just come just beyond the loops there, and I'm going to go to the 3rd size on my ring mandrel, on my bail making pliers, and I'm holding it downwards now because I want the spring. If we look at this now from the side or from the top, then we've got our hook here, and our pin needs to come and sit inside this housing that we've created. So when we put our spring on, the spring needs to be here. Okay, so it's at an opposing angle to the loops that you've made. So we need to turn our work, and I find it easy to turn your work so it helps you visualize where you need to put your spring action. Okay, so third loop on the mandrel, on the pliers, and turn, turn. And what we're going to do is one whole revolution around, so we're going to go all the way around that mandrel. We want to make sure it is nice and tight around that mandrel, so it's really hugging the mandrel. And then if we turn so that our work our pliers can come back up to there. We see we've gone all the way around now, made one big or one larger loop. So if I pull my pliers out, you'll be able to see that a bit easier. So there's one whole loop. So I'm going to pop the pliers back in, hold again. I'm going to come as if we're doing another loop, but all we're going to do is bring those wires back so that they are parallel. Okay, so there it is. There's our pin, and from the side this is what it looks like. We've got our loop, our hook, and our pin. Okay, so now I need to cut the pin so that it sits inside this housing. So we want it to be just probably about here, just before that curve starts. Give that a snip, and if you snip that at an angle, it means half your filing work is done for you. So we snip it at an angle, so we got it already got a little point on there, and then we're just going to file that so that there's no sort of catchy bits. We're going to keep the point, so what I'm going to do is drag the file just across the edges, one direction only. So if you only drag it in one direction, you're not going to rough up the fibres and actually make it more rough. So just drag it in one direction all the way around the edges. Okay, so you feel that. Okay, might need a bit more filing, but you take your time. You can get in nice and close to your face and do that when you're doing it. So we can see now that sort of, if we open this spring out slightly, you can see that if we put that through our clothing now, or wherever we're going to put through a hat or scarf, and then pop it through, and it sits into that housing nice and securely. And because of that little bend that we did, it means that the pin doesn't sit up higher. So when it's on, there's no edge anywhere that can catch. Okay, because it's sat into the housing. And if you find it's sat a bit high, or it's protruding a bit, cut it down a bit further, or just pinch a little more so that this part here brings that pin down even more into the housing there. Okay, so that's how that works. And now the only thing left to do is to harden this pin slightly, because it's, you know, it's a 1mm wire and it's designed for making jewelry, so it's designed to be bendy and soft. So what we're going to do is harden it up a bit. Now, traditional ways of hardening wire is to, you know, hit it with a hammer, or you know, texture it in some way, and that will harden the wire. But what we're going to do, because we don't want to change the structure or look or shape of the pin, we're going to take your left hand or your non-dominant hand and pop and hold it. So pop it onto the mandrel that you made the housing in, the spring in the first place, because that means it's going to stay the same size, not going to distort. And then take your right hand or your dominant hand, grip the wire itself and twist. So you're going to twist and pull. So I'm holding it and pulling it and twisting, and that is strengthening and hardening the wire. Okay, and you do that until you'll feel the difference. It's like more of a spring. You get a bit of a vibration on it, because, you know, it's resisting being bent, and that means your pin's hardened. And so there is your little kilt pin design. So I can't wait to see how you use it and what you do with it. Post your makes on Crow's Mojo group on Facebook. That would be wonderful. Or if you're any other social media platforms you want to share it with, you just say #CrowsMojo. It means that I can find it and have a look what you've been doing. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope it was useful, and I look forward to seeing what your interpretations or adaptations on this pin. Thank you very much. Bye.